Guys, it's time for me to come clean. I've been trying to keep it together, but, quarantine, next-gen console shortages, Wonder Woman 1984, things are bad out there, and I'm ashamed to say that it got to me, and I fell off the wagon. I started playing Destiny again. Now, at first I was like, look, it's just for the review, man. I gotta play it, it's for work. I have no choice. That's what I told myself. But then the review was out, and I kept playing it, and I was like, oh, it's just to complete the season pass. That's it. I get that done, and I'm done. I'm out. I'm clean. It's all good. Like, I don't have a problem or anything. But then I finished the season pass, and I kept playing. I kept playing, and I'm making excuses the whole time. Like, oh, I need Divinity. I need a God roll steady hand. Oh, Riven needs me to deliver her some cookies. You tell yourself all sorts of things when you're down that low because you can't face the truth. And one day, you wake up with a level 300 season pass and you know you've hit rock bottom. And it's at that point that you do what any YouTuber would do. You make a video complaining about Destiny. Guys, I'm pretty much the only content creator that didn't quit Destiny this season, so since you guys are all out of options, you're stuck with my Destiny 2 hot takes for now. Truth be told, I have a rather unique take on Destiny at the moment that you might find novel. I fucking love it. The roughly 250 hours I spent with it this season were special to me because it was the first time in a year that I played a lot of a game just for fun. See, I think everyone imagines this YouTube career as an extrapolation of their personal relationship with games. Most people can play whatever they want, and the only limitation they have is A, the cost of the game, and B, the time needed to play it. Therefore, if you're a YouTuber who gets free games and can play them all day long, then that's perfect because you're just removing the limiting factors. But you're missing that first bit, the choice to play whatever you want to play. God, I envy that choice. I miss it so much. Now I have to play the new hotness. I have to slug through 50 hours of the Avengers. I have to sit through 72 hours of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I finished Wolfenstein Youngblood. Do you know what that does to a person? Now look, just to be clear, I love what I do. It's a dream gig, I know that. I'm just saying that being able to choose to play whatever I want to play is how I lived my whole life before I became a YouTuber, and that's how I fell in love with games. But it's different now, and that choice is generally not available to me. But in December, when all the games were out and I looked at a barren release schedule that gave me a whole bunch of free time up until about March, I looked at Destiny and I said, I choose you. My name is Ralph, by the way, so that joke actually works on many levels. You're welcome. The result of that choice was an absolutely wonderful 250 hours that I just fucking loved, because I've always loved Destiny. Even when I thought it was dog shit, I still loved it. And it was so nice to reconnect with something that I love and play it for the fun of it alone. Now, me saying that I love Destiny at the moment is not the same as me saying that Destiny is in great shape right now, because let's be real, it's got some pretty big problems. If you watch my review of Beyond Light, you might have heard that I said that I wouldn't recommend Destiny to someone who wasn't already addicted to Destiny. That Beyond Light was more about demolition than it was creation. That Destiny had been better in the past, and you get the feeling that it's going to be better again in the future. All of that remains true, and right now I enjoy Destiny in the context of its shortcomings more than I do in appreciation of its greatness. So what the fuck does that mean? When I played The Taken King and even Forsaken, it was in the context of fuck yes. I played it just tingling with pleasure, and yes, I know how bad that sounds. These expansions were like ASMR for my Skinner-loot-addled brain, and Bungie were like master puppeteers just pulling at my synapses and squirting endorphins all over my frontal lobe, and goddamn, what the hell is this script? The shit is gonna get demonetized. Point is, you played those expansions and you were playing a version of Destiny that just felt on point, like every box was being ticked. Everything you wanted those expansions to do, they did. Things you didn't even know you wanted, you got them. Oryx is in heaven, all's right with the world. In days past, when Destiny wasn't at its peak, we asked, when will those halcyon days return? But now we wonder whether or not they ever will. It's an awkward and unpleasant question to grapple with because the tea leaves don't fill us with much optimism. We know that Bungie have taken a $100 million cash injection from NetEase, and that certainly isn't going towards making Destiny raids or exotic quests. We know that Bungie are working on another game right now, potentially multiple games. We see how little focus the PvP side of Destiny is getting, and we wonder whether or not Bungie have just given up on maintaining Destiny as a competitive game for the PvP-focused community. Luke Smith has said a lot of stuff over the years, but the thing I just can't get out of my head is when he said that we should never expect another expansion the size of Forsaken. I know why he said it. I mean, Bungie lost 2 support studios and all of Activision's resources. I get the reasoning, but the quote just bounces around my head a lot, and it really bums me out, because I think Destiny needs the Taken King and Forsaken more than it needs the Dawning and Wrathborn hunts, and as much as I like aspects of the seasonal model, I would rather see resources held in reserve and deployed on major expansions than meted out piecemeal to create content that gives me a reason to log in every day, but doesn't give me a reason to truly love Destiny. And by the way, as a side note, can we fuck off with this Sunset Luke Smith line I keep hearing? It's just so like, Luke Smith led the creation of the Vault of Glass. He led the Taken King expansion. He ushered the franchise from the shit heap it was at launch to the genre-defining MMO light it would become. He has soundly stewarded this franchise since, as nearly a dozen live service, looter shooter, MMO light, would-be Destiny killers all shot their shot, only to fire blanks or quickly fade into obscurity. I don't agree with everything Luke said and done. I've been plenty critical of his choices over the years, but calling for Luke to be sacked because you don't like how Bungie are approaching sunsetting isn't the way. I think this man has delivered enough to deserve better than that. Anyway, that's my rant. Back to the topic at hand, seasonal content. Here's what I think about Season of the Hunt. I think it sucks. I think it's Wrathborn hunts, which are terrible and a really boring way to get lackluster loot. I think it's the Dawning event, which really blows. It's just bounties by another name. And it's the Hawkmoon quest, which, to be fair, is excellent, and I love it. And it gives me those tingles that I was talking about before, because it's hard, and it's fun, and it gives you random rolls on a really fucking cool hand cannon that we all love. The Hawkmoon quest was cool, the rest was not. So you might say, well, chill up. If the season sucks so much, why did you play 250 hours of it? That's a good question, and the answer is that I basically spent 250 hours catching up on a year of missed Destiny. I didn't have Xenophage or Divinity. I had no gear at all since it was all sunset. I had no Ascendant shards because they didn't even fucking exist when I quit. I was missing a full year's worth of new exotics, plus I completely sucked at PvP and I spent a fair amount of time trying to get back to the point where I wasn't getting completely dumpstered in every duel, which basically meant that I spent a lot of time grinding for this steady hand roll. The Season of the Hunt was not the reason I played a lot of Destiny. The reason I played a lot of Destiny was because there was a lot of Destiny to catch up on, and ironically, that catch-up process didn't involve any of the seasonal activities from previous seasons, since all of those were removed as part of sunsetting. Obviously, it's not fair to judge the seasonal model on the basis of the Season of the Hunt, since most people agree that this was pretty much the worst season yet, and I'll have to trust them on that because I skipped all of the seasons last year. I played Destiny 2 during its earlier seasons, Outlaw, Forge, and Drifter. I enjoyed those seasons. In fact, I enjoyed them a lot. They felt like the DLC drops of Destiny 1, though smaller in scale. They had the same vibe. It was about, here's some new stuff, go and play with it, enjoy yourself, see you again in a few months. I think for me, my issue with Season of the Hunt was not how lackluster its content was, but what the concept of seasons as a whole have come to represent. Returning to Destiny now, I'm struck by how demanding and grindy this game has become. I mentioned it in my review, but yeah, I mean, like, immersing myself in that for the past 2 months, it really brought this issue into sharp relief. When I look at the Destiny of the past, I feel like its content drops and rhythms existed to give you something new to play around with. Now I look at the seasonal model and I see a season pass to grind and daily bounties to complete, drip-fed mission progress and story beats, a seasonal artifact to grind, currencies to grind, seasonal events that are just bounties in disguise. I feel like all of the grind dials have been turned hard to the right, and every new season will now reset your progress bar back down to 0 on your power level, on your seasonal artifact, on your season pass, on your sunset gear. I just hear the voice of Shaxx in my head. Fight forever, Guardian! I mean, that's cool for Shaxx, but I'm not sure it's the right design pillar on which to build the game. I think so often about the words of Yoshi P, the game director for Final Fantasy XIV, who has built his entire game around the concept that you should not be playing it all the time. He says, hey, go and play other games between content drops. Final Fantasy XIV delivers major patch updates every 4 months or so, and they just drop it, and then that's it. See you in 4 months. There isn't this desperate thirst to see you log in each and every day. It's like, it's there, play it if you want, don't if you want. Either way, see you in 4 months when we'll have some cool new shit for you to play. And people fucking love it. Go and talk to the Final Fantasy XIV community. They love it. I'm also reminded of that quote from Blizzard when they visited Bungie to share their learnings about Diablo 3's rebuilding, and Blizzard said to Bungie, quote, "The only point you have to deliver on is that when people leave your game, because they will, when they leave your game, they need to be happy." Right now, with the seasonal model, it feels like Bungie are trying to build a game where you're never meant to leave. There are no exit ramps here, it's just stay on the highway either forever or until you crash out, and I think that's folly. There are some serious problems with Destiny right now. The PvP sandbox is completely foobar owing to stasis. There have not been any new PvP maps or modes in a long time. The Trials community has shrunk so much that even the top 1% of players find it too sweaty. The Iron Banner is really unrewarding. There are no ways whatsoever for us to chase high stat 65 plus armor at this point. The Vanguard Strike playlist is too easy, and the 1220 Ordeal Nightfall that you can matchmake into isn't a rotating playlist. It's always the same strike for the whole week. There are no reliable ways for us to get hold of Warmind or Charge with Light mods other than just praying to the RNG gods. Gambit is not good right now, and it feels like it's just there, unloved and ignored. There are a lot of problems, and it feels as though the seasonal model that we've arrived at isn't meant to solve those problems, it's just meant to keep you logging on. It feels as though the community and Bungie are talking past each other, where the community are like, "Fix sunsetting," and Bungie are like, "Don't worry, we're listening, we've heard you. We're bringing back all the moon weapons that no one was asking for, and we're removing the masterworked item from the Pit of Heresy." I don't know how it works behind the scenes at Bungie, none of us do. I suspect though, that a recurring 3-month timeline on the creation and deployment of new content would probably restrict their ability to pivot towards more important things when needed. Like, did Bungie know that stasis would completely explode the Crucible when they committed to making 3 seasons worth of new content? Probably not. Did they foresee just how much the community would hate sunsetting when they rolled it out? Maybe. With a recurring 3-month deadline hanging over your head, how do Bungie's priorities shift when both the PvP game is in crisis owing to stasis, and the PvE game is in crisis owing to sunsetting? This is a red hot take, but I would be happy to get no new seasonal activities or events at all if it just meant that Bungie would spend all their time fixing the core underlying issues of the game, and then just deliver us another Forsaken-sized expansion later on. I know there's a plan in place and season passes to sell and Eververse cosmetics to roll out, I get it, but I just can't get that quote out of my head. That quote from Luke Smith saying we'll never get another Forsaken-sized expansion. I think the game needs expansions like that way more than it needs this seasonal model. I get the content drought complaints, I do, but I don't think we should be aiming for a Destiny that is constantly drip feeding us pretty forgettable, grindy content. I think it would be fine if we got like 2 updates a year, a big ass expansion that makes us all teary eyed and we tell our grandkids about it, and a smaller expansion 6 months later that adds a few new things. In between that, just work on the shit that's broken, because there's always going to be work to do whenever you roll out big new ideas as part of those major content drops. So that's my review of Season of the Hunt. The season was not needed, it's too grindy, and I'd rather Bungie had worked on other things. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome, they're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again, I'll see you next time.